journalist and commentator Nabila Ramdani is here, along with Colonel Mike Dewar, now defence analyst. Good morning to you both. Let's just get your assessment of where we are, if you will. There's lots of questions. The scenes that we've been seeing, very chaotic, lots of guns on the streets at the moment, and yet that breach of the compound appeared to be extremely well organised. So just from a military perspective, first of all, your assessment of the situation.
Well, I don't know whether the breach of the compound was well organised. It was pretty chaotic. I mean, I think what was extraordinary was the lack of opposition. I mean, the whole way in from the west into Tripoli. The barracks outside Tripoli of the Khamis Brigade was empty, apparently, and there appeared to be very little organised opposition. And I think when the rebels realised they could actually, it would be easier for them to there was some opposition getting into Gaddafi's compound, but I think not as much as the rebels expected. And they were in and through the various walls within a matter of hours.
So just very briefly,
so I think that's what's surprising.
That, then how cohesive are they? Because we were under the impression that perhaps they'd had some help with various sleeper cells, had been suggested.
Well, the Telegraph this morning says the SAS are there. I think they're not there in unit form. They're not there in a fighting capacity. We do know, if you recall, several months ago, British advisors were put into Benghazi, and that was openly announced. And I would imagine if there are some of the advisors who happen to be members of the SAS at the same time, that is indeed conceivable, and in fact probably is the case. But I don't think the Telegraph have got it quite right. I think they're there as advisors and probably offering very useful advice, because still the rebel forces lack organisation, and I think that will show in the coming days as they struggle to sort their influence throughout Tripoli.
Nabila, when we see these scenes inside that compound, great luxury enjoyed obviously by the Gaddafi family, the feelings of ordinary Libyans can be imagined, I suppose.
Well, absolutely. We have effectively, an awful lot of thousands and thousands of young men, heavily armed, who are driven by resentment and indeed hatred of against a despotic regime under which they have been suffering for decades now. And seeing, the sight of and the luxury in which Gaddafi and his clan lived is even more a reason to go and take him out effectively. And also there's a sense that there's a sentiment or a need for closure, and unless they capture or indeed kill Gaddafi, I don't think the situation will settle down.
What's your own feeling about Gaddafi? Do you think he's headed off to Sirte? Do you think that would be the most likely place for him to try and hold out?
I have interviewed Gaddafi in the past, and given his character as well over the last few decades, here is a man, he's a strong man, he's straight back in his defying position. He fears no one, least of all the West, which is of course backing up the rebel forces. He made it abundantly clear throughout this conflict that he will live and die in his own country, and I think he's still around, appealing to his loyalists. He still believes that he's immensely loved by his population, and he is relying on supporters
so in both of your views, then, what will happen next? Because as you're saying, really, we don't have much sense of law and order at the moment. Perhaps that's to be expected. Could this, though, become a very protracted event if he's not found? Just both your views.
Certainly. I mean, if he is not found, that's likely to prolong the fighting, and it's still proving difficult to move towards Sirte, where the reports this morning were that there were artillery barrages stopping the advance of the rebels. So I think we're going to see, and southern parts of Tripoli also are still in rebel hands. And my view is, and the indications are, that Gaddafi is probably still in the southern suburbs of Tripoli. I think he's quite determined to stay there and maintain some form of influence. So special forces, if they are there, will be using they'll be using all sorts of surveillance means to try and locate him, rather like looking for Osama bin Laden. There'll be a lot of drones above, there'll be listening devices, they'll be listening into mobile phones. They'll be looking for clues now as to where he is, and the sooner he's found, the better, quite clearly.
There are also allegations that Gaddafi is consolidating his forces around various borders along the Algerian border, the Chad and Niger, and near the city of Sirte. So clearly this is a man who is not giving up the fight, he's not surrendering at all. And the sooner he's found, the better it is, dare I say, to sort of move on and bring about stability and a sense of law and order. I'm skeptical about this idea that he should be killed, and I dare I say it reflects badly on the National Transitional Council, which has offered amnesty to members of his inner circle in order to do that, because dare I say, I mean, these are people who claim to be moving towards the implementation of democratic principles and the belief of the rule of law and justice, and killing someone is not just how justice works.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. It's very important that he's captured and put on trial.
Thank you both very much for your views this morning. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.